This is Aaron Apollo Camp, and you are listening to the Apollo Papyrus podcast. Last week, the Apollo Papyrus podcast officially reached over 10,000 combined plays and downloads by over 5,000 unique listeners, as tracked by Spotify for Creators, the service that hosts this podcast. I thank all of our listeners for your continued support of this podcast, and I hope y'all enjoy listening to this episode. John Wandzilak, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be here.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
My name is John, a New Jersey artist who just recently published and illustrated a book called Bolt Voltage Out of Sync.
Without spoiling too much about your children's graphic novel slash coloring book, which, as you stated in your intro, it's called Bolt Voltage Out of Sync. What is your book about?
So it takes place in the future. Humanity has decided to leave the planet as it has pretty much been drained of all of its resources and leaving it behind to the robots to track the healing process without human presence. And then robot Bolt Voltage, one day on his rounds on the planet, glitches and is overwhelmed by something that glitches his system into suddenly feeling human emotions. He then has to go through the rest of the book and his day trying to figure out how to manage things like stress, anxiety, and even just the question of identity, something that we all struggle with on a regular basis.
Why did you choose to write and illustrate Bolt Voltage Out of Sync as a coloring book instead of as a regular illustrated graphic book?
Well, while I think the story of Bolt and his awakening speaks on its own, one of the things that this is the product of my own therapy. And with that, I learned that coloring is a very deep, intuitive way to reconnect with the simpler things. It kind of shuts the mind off. It helps you reset. And I found that maybe if I colored every page in, some of my readers might feel like they didn't have a personal touch to the book. So this element of adding your own color makes the book more personal to the reader.
You have a disability that affects your eyesight, more specifically, you're blind in one eye. How did the fact that you're blind in one eye influence how you wrote and illustrated your book and how you developed the main character in the book, which is a robot named Bolt?
Well, the main character, Bolt, he is an embodiment of pretty much everything that's happened to me in my past. And in some ways, you'll see through the book that there are subtleties. My accident that took my eye, I kind of put that into the book itself because, well, at one point, there is a dark part where the robot has to navigate a dark room. And my left eye being my bad eye, I made his left eye a flashlight that turns on and illuminates the area in front of him. So I tried to take any trauma that I've gone through and put it into the pages to show a resolution as to how to walk away from a trauma with your head held high rather than hanging between your shoulders and crying.
Your book explores emotions that can be difficult for children and even adults to discuss, such as anxiety and self-doubt. Why did you feel it was important to address these topics in a children's coloring book?
Well, I have been promoting my art beyond Bolt Voltage online for the last 5 years. And in doing so, I've noticed a lot of people have a lot of problems with emotional regulation. People that you've seen the viral videos where people are screaming in the middle of Target because they're being recorded, or yelling at officers because they don't like the fact they're pulled over. And with all of this, I mean, these are adults, functioning human beings who run the world on a regular basis. The children that these adults take care of, I mean, if the adults can't figure out how to put their emotions out there, how can we expect the children to? So I chose to make it a younger age book, starting at around 12, 11 years old, so that when children who are coming into puberty and have a lot of questions, when this book hits them, it's not going to answer all the questions. It doesn't have all the answers. It has some techniques that when you read the book, you learn how to cope. the coloring is a proven therapy that does in fact therapize the human mind. So I think that pretty much is the why I went the route I did with it. I mean, it needed to have that base. It had to find a way to connect with its audience.
How do you hope that children and adults alike can relate to Bolt's journey?
Well, aside from the fact that we all are going through our own stuff, we all have our own things that bother us. Bolt isn't a boy, isn't a girl, isn't a man, isn't a woman. It's a robot. It's a non-binary entity that suddenly feels human emotions. So we are not attacking gender. We are not tackling that very difficult topic. We are talking about the more base stuff. We're talking about the emotions, the things that drive us as humans forward. And since it's a coloring book and it's a cartoon, and it's a robot and it's a kid's story, it's soft. Even though it's a hard robot, it's a soft topic and it touches on the topics that it needs to, but it doesn't do it. You don't feel like you're going into therapy. You just think you're reading a story. And the more you look at it and the more you enjoy the art and you read the words and you see how the two blend together, it's therapy that just kind of happens. It's something the world needs.
How do you envision parents, teachers, or therapists using your book?
Well, I mean, therapists obviously I would hope, would tell the parents, read the book with your children because if they have a problem understanding it, it's something that could be a focal point where you can talk to as your child is discussing it. Also, because of the coloring element, like I said, why would parents want to? Because I've noticed a lot lately that parents are tired of the screen time. I mean, there's a lot of parents that do enjoy a good phone or an iPad, but there's a lot of parents out there who want to bring it back to the 1980s, 1970s standard of the screen goes off, pick up a book, go outside, get some fresh air. And this book talks about that. It talks about being out in the world. It talks about how nature can reclaim and restore and bring you back to zero.
This is the time of the interview where I usually ask my guest how their book or books was published. An interesting fact about your book, it was a Kickstarter project. Why and how did you use Kickstarter for your book, and what was it like to use Kickstarter?
Kickstarter was very difficult at first. Like anything brand new, you have to take some time and really learn how to use the platform itself, especially since it's a business platform. Kickstarter is a launching point for a lot of people who want to write books, create video games, board games, professionals that have ideas that need funding. So I sought out the help of other people, and I didn't have the capital to write a book, draw the book, scan the book, and also do all the publishing stuff. I went to a publishing house that I'm going to keep nameless because I'm not happy with the way they provided their services, and I'm not going to continue with them after this. But I will say that it cost me a good amount of money to get the book published through them, and my Kickstarter campaign did help me recover some of that money and put into the marketing as well to try and push the book with some ads on Google and also reaching out to some podcasts, i.e. yourself, and also some radio shows. We're also trying to get onto the Today Show currently, and I have big dreams for Bolt. So it's been a lot.
Regarding your book, were there any challenges in creating a story that is both visually engaging and emotionally meaningful? And if so, what were some of those challenges?
I mean, I think the biggest challenge was I chose to draw pictures and then write story. And then when I finished writing that story, I'd continue writing story and have to draw pictures to match that up. I wanted to keep it within a certain amount of pages because I wanted it to be thin. I wanted it to be a light read. I didn't want it to be a novel per se because of the age range. So that was the biggest struggle, was just keeping my page count down and keeping the verbiage. Because although I'm not a highly educated person, I did a lot of reading after high school and I upped my vocabulary. And with doing that, unfortunately, sometimes you say statements that tend to get a bit exuberant and overshoot your target. So I was doing that a lot, and I had to go back and dial back my verbiage a little bit. So that was probably my hardest thing, was making sure that my brain kept it at a middle school level.
Do you have any more books in the works in regards to writing, illustrating, or both? And if so, what are some ideas you have for books that you will or may write, illustrate, or both?
So Bolt Voltage is the character, and Out of Sync is the first installment of a series that I plan to make that is going to tackle all of the important things. Not just mental health, but also some simple things like being polite. Just kind of take that part. I also am currently working on a 1.5 version. Thanks to the wonderful people of my Kickstarter campaign, I did have a good amount of people that purchased what were called digital and also physical sketches of the robot in their own image. So I had 13 different people that purchased their own personal sketches. I made them, digitized them, and uploaded them into an ebook that I'm currently forming. And each page, I have written a short story based on the picture. So there's a small each of my Kickstarter contributors have received their reward with their story, but I'm compiling everyone's stories now into what will be a free e-download probably in the next month.
Aside from your work with the Bolt Voltage books, uh, what is your work outside of book writing like? If you do any work outside of the book writing world?
I actually work part-time as a manager for the Michaels stores at company, and I have used that as a platform not just because I get an employee discount and I save a little money in my art supplies, but also it puts me in front of people who are like-minded, and I can actually have conversations about my book or the art that I produce when I'm helping my customers. So it's actually given me a public platform where I get to openly discuss my projects with the public.
My final question for this interview is going to be about coloring in general. How do you see coloring as a tool for relaxation and emotional healing?
So the first thing, when you're taking a picture and you're adding color to lines that are already laid out, it's a very defined image. So you're trying to focus all of your energy on your hands and where you're putting that color. You're trying to stay inside those lines. And then when you change from one color to the next, you're trying to blend those colors, or maybe you're not, depending on who you are as an artist, but I would. And just that focus of rubbing the pencil back and forth on the paper, feeling the wood in your hand, feeling the grain of the paper rub against the charcoal or the pastel or the colored pencil as it rubs back and forth. That is, ironically, like a meditation. Those vibrations travel through your hand, through your body, and they affect your brain. And when your eyes are focusing on the image and your hands are doing all of the work, your brain is doing something in the background that you don't even know it's doing. It's healing itself. It's relieving itself of that stupid thing that song that's bothering and stuck in your head. It's unwinding that earworm. It's that hard day at work where you just feel like you're overwhelmed and overworked. It takes some of the workload off your shoulders so you can walk through the house a little more freely. Uh, that's what coloring does for the human body. That's not even me as an opinion. That is a scientifically proven fact that focusing on minor tasks such as coloring can in fact bring you inner peace like that.
John, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were a fantastic guest to interview.
I appreciate your time, Aaron. I appreciate your podcast, and I appreciate your audience taking the time to listen to what I had to say.
This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.